All right, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about Manny Pacquiao preparing for his fight with Yordenis Ugas, and according to observers, looking old. And that time is starting to catch up on Manny, or is it? Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to talk about Manny Pacquiao and preparing for his fight with Yordenis Ugas, and reports out of his camp that he is looking slow in sparring, and the age is starting to appear on him. Before we get into the bulk of the video, though, please let me ask you to make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, also hit the bell icon, hit the like button. If you wouldn't mind, it goes a long way towards helping grow the channel. So let's get into it. Manny Pacquiao is fighting Yordenis Ugas for Yordenis Ugas's belt after having had his fight with Errol Spence Jr. canceled. And according to people that have been in the camp with Manny Pacquiao, they are co-signing what was said by Keith Thurman, and that being that Manny Pacquiao is starting to look older. He's starting to show his age. One guy, this is a third guy, actually said that Manny Pacquiao looks different from this fight, from sparring from this fight, than he did with the Keith Thurman fight 2 years ago. So you know that time is settling in, and time, waits for no man. Now, what will that do in this fight with Yordenis Ugas? I'm not sure if it's going to mean much, because there is a way where somebody can be looking older and looking slower, but they could have had so much talent that at the beginning, at their peak, that they can decline for a while and still be higher than most everybody else. I think perfect examples of that are guys like Muhammad Ali, who fought, and was in his prime from like 1962, well, I think it was the 1960 Olympics through like 1967 when he got suspended. That was during his ascension and his prime years. But then when he came back in 1960, 1970, and he started, he fought in a different style, it looked like he was slowing down, but because of how high he was, or how good he was during his prime, it took a while before people below him could catch him. So, that's just like, there are people that are so good that even when they start declining, that they can pull a couple old men tricks, figure out how to and they can compensate for the slight lack of speed, or their footwork might not be the same, right? But they can use their intelligence, they can use their ring experience and all that to compensate for it. So Manny Pacquiao, it's not certain whether or not him being older is necessarily going to mean that he's going to lose against Yordenis Ugas, because I don't think anybody would say that Yordenis Ugas was as talented a fighter or as skilled a fighter as Manny Pacquiao was at his peak, specifically around that weight class, the 147-pound weight class, when Manny Pacquiao had been beating the likes of Oscar De La Hoya, Miguel Cotto, Shane Mosley, Antonio Margarito. He really did run through, a lot of very seasoned Hall of Fame level fighters. And I don't think that anybody would say Yordenis Ugas is that level of a fighter. So I'm not 100%, wrapped up in the fact that Manny Pacquiao looks like, he is declining, because honestly, he should look like he's declining. He's 42 years old, and people that are acting like he's not declining are honestly, I think they're best categorized as fanboys. There's people that are serious, that really do look at the sport of boxing, and you have people that you like in the sport of boxing that that you're fans of. For example, I'm without a doubt will tell you that I'm a fan of Deontay Wilder. I'm a fan of Errol Spence Jr. And I would like to see things. I'm a fan of Gary Russell Jr. and I would like for things to go their way, and I root for them and for things to go their way. But I'm not so blind in my appreciation for them that I rule out anybody else being able to touch them, or there's no way that they could ever lose a fight. All of that, because you got to bring a certain amount of realism to the situation, even if you're fans of a fighter. And I think that is a category of like a serious boxing fan who does have specific fighters that they like. And maybe because they're from the same demographic as them. I've seen that with Manny Pacquiao fans. There's a lot of Manny Pacquiao fans that are say that they're Filipino and that they support Manny Pacquiao because they're Filipino, but at the same time they take a realistic view and a respectful view of other fighters. But when you get out of that and you get into what people would refer to as fanboyism, is when you are just totally, in love with your one fighter. There's nothing that they can do wrong, and anything that is said to the contrary that would work against them or seemingly sounds like it's against them needs to be met with a lot of, aggression and insults and, condemnations, right? That type of stuff is the fanboy behavior. And I think that anybody that would react really harshly to somebody saying, yeah, Manny Pacquiao's 42 years old, he's looking slower than he did when he was even, 40 years old. I think that is just somebody that's being unrealistic. If you're a 25-year-old fan of Manny Pacquiao, you got to remember that 25 years ago when you were born, Manny Pacquiao was still already a professional fighter, and people, tend to go downhill. That's just what it is. Nobody stays up forever. But I don't know, again, how this is going to affect the fight with Yordenis Ugas, because Yordenis Ugas fight, to me, the way that he fights seems to be a little bit one-dimensional, right? He's somebody that he's a grinder. He's coming forward. He's really landing big shots, trying to land big shots to the body, set you up and break you down with shots to the body and come over the top and take you out that way. I don't know whether or not that's going to work with Manny Pacquiao, not regardless of how far he's dropped, but with Manny Pacquiao is still, I do believe, a world-class fighter. He's still a top 5 welterweight. And Yordenis Ugas himself is not exactly a spring chicken at 35 years old. So, I'm leaning towards Yordenis Ugas, but I'm telling you, the reason why I'm leaning towards Yordenis Ugas is almost completely around the idea that Manny Pacquiao, it's that if I keep picking against Manny Pacquiao at this advanced old age, I'm going to hit gold. And I think this is going to be the time. Even though when I look at the fight, if Manny Pacquiao was Manny Pacquiao, if he was still as quick as he'd always been, if he was as in and out style was still as fast as it was before, I would pick Manny Pacquiao to win. It's just that I don't have faith in a 42-year-old. And then the word that I'm getting out of camp is that Manny Pacquiao is looking slower. Despite all of he's doing great. That's what everybody says in every camp. Yeah, he looks great. He looks fast as ever. His speed is incredible. His power is incredible. You hear a lot of that stuff when they're trying to sell it to the public and sell it to the other fighter. But to the naked eye, to the educated eye, people might start thinking, no, I remember a couple of years ago when you would have got out of the way of that punch, like what happened when he fought Keith Thurman. A couple of years ago, there were straight right hands that landed flush on Manny that a couple of years before would not have landed flush. And I definitely don't think that he is any fresher for this fight than he was for the Keith Thurman. But anyway, don't shoot the messenger, just spreading the word. Manny Pacquiao is supposed to be looking a little slower. We'll see how it plays out in the actual fight. But you let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.